Welcome to Listen and Speak English Stories podcast. This podcast is created to help you improve your English listening skills through simple, clear, and engaging stories. By listening regularly, you will learn new vocabulary, improve your comprehension, and enjoy the process of learning English. Today's story is called The Little Town by the River. It is a beginner short story written slowly, with simple sentences and clear structure. Once upon a time in a quiet valley, there was a small town by the river. The town was peaceful and the people lived simple lives. The houses were small with red roofs and white walls. The streets were narrow and children often played outside together. The river was the heart of the town. Every morning, people came to the river to fetch water, wash clothes, or sit by the shore to talk. The sound of the flowing water was soft and calming. The river gave life to the town and the people respected it deeply. In this town lived a young boy named Tom. Tom was 10 years old, curious and full of energy. He loved exploring every corner of the town. He liked to run across the fields, climb the old oak tree near his house, and watch the fish swimming in the river. Tom lived with his mother and his grandfather. His father had gone to work in another city, so Tom spent most of his days with his family in the small town. His mother worked as a baker, making bread every morning, while his grandfather told him stories from the past. Tom's dream was to discover something special, something that would make him proud. He always believed that the town, although small, was full of secrets waiting to be found. One morning as the sun rose over the hills, Tom woke up early. The golden light touched the rooftops and the sound of birds filled the air. Tom looked outside his window and saw the river shining in the sunlight. He decided that today would be different. Today he wanted to go farther than usual. He wanted to follow the river to see where it would take him. He quickly ate his breakfast, grabbed a small bag and told his grandfather, "I'm going to explore today. I will follow the river." His grandfather smiled gently. "The river is a friend but also a mystery. Be careful, Tom. Always listen to the river and it will guide you." With those words in his heart, Tom began his adventure. He walked along the riverbank, listening to the sound of the water. The path was fresh with morning dew and butterflies danced in the air. The farther he walked, the quieter the town became, until he could only hear his own footsteps and the flow of the river. As he continued, Tom noticed something unusual. Near the edge of the river, hidden behind tall grass, there was an old wooden box. It looked heavy and worn as if it had been there for many years. Tom's heart began to beat faster. He pulled the box out of the grass, wiped the dust away and tried to open it. At first it did not move. Then with a little force the lid slowly creaked open. Inside the box Tom found a piece of paper. It was old and yellow with words written in faded ink. He could barely read the letters but it looked like a map. The map showed the river, the town, and a mysterious mark deep in the forest. Tom's eyes grew wide. A secret map. This was the adventure he had been waiting for. But he also knew that the journey might not be easy. The forest was far and filled with unknown paths. Still, his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He held the map tightly, smiled, and whispered, "This is the beginning." The morning sun continued to shine over the small town where Emma lived. After finishing her short walk near the bakery, she decided to return home. The warm smell of bread was still in her mind, and she felt happy that her day had started in such a simple, calm way. Life in her town was never too fast and she liked that. When she arrived home, she opened the window of her small living room. A gentle breeze came inside, bringing the sound of birds from the trees outside. Emma loved mornings because they always gave her a sense of hope, as if every day was a new beginning. She sat near the window and prepared a cup of tea. Slowly she enjoyed the warm drink, letting her thoughts wander. Her mind began to think about her goals. She remembered that she wanted to improve her English because she believed that learning a new language could open many doors in her future. For Emma, English was not just a subject in school, it was a way to connect with the world. Sometimes she imagined herself traveling to new places, meeting new people, and speaking confidently in English. After finishing her tea, she took her small notebook and wrote down simple English words she had learned the day before. She repeated them slowly, whispering to herself. Words like friend, house, morning, dream. She smiled each time she remembered the meaning. Step by step, she felt her confidence growing. Later in the day, Emma decided to take another walk, this time toward the town library. The library was one of her favorite places. It was quiet, full of books, and gave her the feeling that she could discover something new at any moment. As she walked along the street, she noticed the children playing near the school, their laughter filling the air. It reminded her of her own childhood, a time when life was simple and full of curiosity. At the library, she greeted the librarian, a kind woman with gray hair who always welcomed visitors with a warm smile. Emma searched for a simple storybook in English, something she could read without too much difficulty. Finally, she found a small book with short stories written for learners. She opened the first page and began reading slowly. Each sentence was like a small challenge but also a small victory. As she turned the pages, she felt herself entering a new world. The characters in the book had their own adventures, their own dreams, and their own struggles. Even though the sentences were simple, Emma felt connected to the stories. She realized that language was not only about grammar or rules, but about people and their experiences. She stayed in the library for hours, reading and taking notes. Sometimes she paused to repeat sentences aloud, trying to feel the rhythm of English. It was not perfect, but every attempt made her stronger. When she left the library, the sun was already lower in the sky. The town looked golden, and Emma felt proud of herself. Walking back home, she thought about her day. It had been simple, yet full of meaning. She realized that learning English was not just about sitting with books. It was also about living with curiosity, observing the world, and connecting ideas. With that thought, she smiled and promised herself that tomorrow would bring another small step forward. After the peaceful days in Greenfield, something very special was coming. The town was preparing for its biggest event of the year, the Festival of Lights. Every December, people from nearby villages traveled to Greenfield to see this magical celebration. The story of the festival was very old. Long ago, during a very cold winter, the people of Greenfield almost lost hope. The nights were long and dark and food was scarce. But one evening, a group of children lit candles and placed them in front of their houses. Slowly, the streets began to shine. The light gave people courage and reminded them that even in dark times, hope could shine brightly. Since then, the Festival of Lights had become a tradition, celebrated with joy and unity. Emma was excited. She had never seen the festival before because she had only lived in Greenfield for a few months. Mrs. Rose, the kind lady she had met earlier, invited her to join the preparations. The whole town worked together. The baker made sweet bread with honey and cinnamon. The tailor decorated clothes with golden ribbons. The children painted lanterns in bright colors. Emma helped by hanging paper stars in the town square. As she worked, she felt something beautiful. She was no longer just a visitor. She was becoming part of the community. When the festival night finally arrived, Greenfield was transformed. Strings of small lights shone from every house. The big square was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of delicious food. Families walked together, holding candles. Children ran with lanterns, their faces glowing with joy. Emma stood with Mrs. Rose and her family. She looked around and felt her heart warm. For the first time since moving to Greenfield, she felt truly at home. The lights around her were not just decorations. They were symbols of hope, friendship, and belonging. As the music played, people danced in circles, holding hands. Emma joined them, laughing and moving with the rhythm. She was not worried about her English anymore. She realized something important. Understanding and connection were not only about words, but about shared moments, kindness, and joy. At the end of the night, the mayor of Greenfield lit a large lantern and let it fly into the sky. One by one, families followed, releasing their own lanterns. The night sky filled with hundreds of glowing lights, slowly rising into the darkness. Emma whispered to herself, "This is not just a festival. This is a memory I will never forget." And as she watched the lights disappear into the stars, she knew that her story in Greenfield was only beginning. The next morning, Emma woke up early. The sun was bright, the air was fresh, and the little village was alive with new energy. Emma stretched her arms and smiled. She remembered something important. It was market day in the town. Every week, villagers from nearby farms and homes came together. They brought fruits, vegetables, bread, cheese, and many handmade items. Emma was excited. She wanted to see the market. She wanted to taste new food. And she wanted to learn more English while meeting people. So, after breakfast, Emma decided to go. She put on her comfortable shoes. She carried a small bag. And she started walking toward the center of the town. The streets were busy. Children were laughing. Women were carrying baskets. Men were setting up wooden stalls. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. The sound of people talking, greeting, and laughing echoed around. Emma loved the feeling. She walked slowly, listening carefully. Every voice was a chance to learn. Every sentence was a chance to practice. At one stall, a farmer showed his apples. They were red, shiny, and big. Emma looked at them. She thought, they looked delicious. The farmer smiled and said, "Fresh apples, only 1 pound a bag." Emma repeated softly to herself, "Fresh apples, 1 pound a bag." She wanted to remember the words. She wanted to practice saying them. So she said them again and again in her mind. Then she gave a coin to the farmer. The farmer gave her a bag of apples. She smiled and said, "Thank you." The farmer replied, "You're welcome." Emma felt happy. It was a small conversation, but it was real English. She had spoken, listened, and understood. She continued walking. At another stall there was bread. It was warm, golden, and smelled amazing. Emma loved bread. The baker said, "Fresh bread baked this morning." Emma listened carefully. "Fresh bread baked this morning." She repeated the words in her head. She paid for 1 loaf. She tasted it. It was soft and sweet. She said, "Very good. Thank you." The baker smiled. He said, "Enjoy." Emma's confidence was growing. Each little exchange made her stronger. Each small word made her braver. The market was full of colors. Tomatoes red like fire. Carrots orange like the sunset. Cheese yellow and creamy. Flowers pink, white, and purple. Emma walked slowly. She looked, listened, and repeated words in her head. She was learning with her eyes. She was learning with her ears. And she was learning with her heart. Then she noticed something beautiful. A small stall with handmade jewelry. Necklaces, bracelets, and rings. They were shining in the sunlight. The woman at the stall said, "Hello. Would you like to look?" Emma nodded. She looked at the jewelry. She thought about buying something small. She pointed at a bracelet. It was simple with small blue stones. The woman said, "This one is 5 pounds." Emma repeated in her mind, "This one is 5 pounds." She took the bracelet. She gave the money. She said clearly, "I like it. Thank you." The woman replied warmly, "Thank you too. Have a good day." Emma smiled. Her bag was now full, apples, bread, and a bracelet. But her heart was fuller. Because she had practiced English. She had listened, spoken, and learned. As the sun climbed higher, Emma decided to leave the market. She walked back slowly toward her small house. She felt tired but happy. She felt proud because she was improving step by step. And she whispered to herself, "English is like a journey. 1 word at a time. 1 step at a time." She smiled because she knew she was on the right path. The days in the small town passed slowly but happily. Emma continued her routine. She walked every morning, she practiced English with simple words, and she explored the streets and the river. Every day she felt herself growing, learning, and understanding more. One bright morning, Emma decided to visit the park again. The park was quiet at first. The trees moved gently in the breeze. The grass was green and soft. Birds were singing. The park smelled fresh and peaceful. As Emma walked along the path, she saw a young girl sitting under a tree. The girl looked calm and thoughtful. She held a small notebook in her hands. Emma smiled, remembering her own notebook full of words and dreams. The girl noticed Emma and looked up. She smiled slightly shyly. Emma felt curious. She walked slowly closer, keeping a respectful distance. Emma continued her walk, enjoying the calm morning. But then she thought about the girl and her notebook. Maybe they shared the same dream. Maybe they wanted the same thing. to learn, to grow, and to explore the world in their own way. For the next few days, Emma saw the girl again. She sat under the same tree, always with her notebook. Emma wanted to learn more. She wanted to understand what the girl wrote. She wanted to share her own thoughts and ideas. One afternoon, Emma decided to sit near the girl. She opened her own notebook and began writing simple English words. She wrote about the morning, the sun, the trees, and the birds. Slowly, she felt her confidence grow. The girl noticed Emma. She looked curious. Slowly, she opened her notebook. There were words, drawings, and small stories. Emma saw that the girl was practicing English too. Emma felt a connection. She understood that learning was easier when someone shared the journey. She smiled inside. She realized that friends could help each other, even without speaking many words. Days passed, and Emma continued visiting the park. She and the girl exchanged small gestures, pointing at words, showing drawings, and repeating phrases silently. Each day they understood each other better. Each day their confidence grew. Emma learned something important. Learning a language was not just about books or teachers. It was also about observing, listening, and connecting with others. Friends could inspire you, motivate you, and make learning joyful. At home, Emma continued writing in her notebook. She wrote about the park, the trees, the sun, and the girl. She wrote about her own feelings, her dreams, and her small successes. She realized that every day was a lesson. Every day offered a new opportunity to learn and to grow. Every word she practiced, every step she took, made her journey stronger. Soon the girl started writing more English words. She practiced sentences. She repeated words silently, just like Emma did. They became friends without even needing to talk much. Their connection was built on learning, observation, and shared curiosity. Emma smiled every time she saw the girl. She felt that together they were stronger. Together they could continue their journey, one word at a time, one step at a time. As the sun began to set over the small town, Emma walked home slowly. She carried her notebook close to her heart. She remembered the lessons of the day: patience, observation, friendship, and courage. She whispered to herself, "Learning is not a race. Learning is a journey. And every journey is better with a friend." The evening was calm. The sky turned orange and pink. The town was quiet, and Emma felt peaceful. She knew that the next day would bring new words, new steps, and new discoveries. And so, Emma's journey continued. Slowly, clearly, and happily. The days in the small town passed quietly. Emma's routine was simple but full of learning. She continued visiting the park, practicing English with her notebook, and observing the world around her. Every day she felt herself growing more confident. One morning, Emma decided to take a longer walk toward the edge of the town. She wanted to explore new streets and new corners she had never seen before. The sun was bright, the air was fresh, and the little town was slowly waking up. As she walked, Emma noticed a small cafe she had never entered before. The sign was painted in bright colors: coffee and tea, welcome. She felt curious. Maybe she could practice English with the people inside. Emma stepped inside. The cafe was warm and cozy. The smell of coffee and baked goods filled the room. A few people were sitting at tables talking quietly. Emma chose a small table near the window and sat down. The waiter came to her table. Emma felt nervous. She wanted to speak English, but she worried about making mistakes. She took a deep breath. Slowly she spoke. "Hello. I would like tea, please." The waiter smiled. "Of course. Tea for you. Anything else?" Emma thought for a moment. "A small cake, please." The waiter nodded. He wrote her order down and went to the kitchen. Emma felt proud. She had spoken English. She had made herself understood. But she also felt the challenge of speaking to someone for the first time in a new place. While she waited for her tea, she looked around the cafe. People were talking in English. She listened carefully. She tried to repeat the sentences silently in her head. Her tea and cake arrived. She smiled. She whispered to herself, "Good. I did it. One step at a time." Emma enjoyed her tea slowly. She practiced words quietly in her notebook. She wrote about the cafe, the people, and the sounds. She wrote about her feelings: nervous, happy, proud, and curious. After a while, a woman at the next table noticed Emma writing. She smiled and said softly, "You are learning English, yes?" Emma nodded. She felt a little shy but happy to connect. She showed her notebook. The woman looked at the words and smiled. "You are doing very well," she said. "Keep practicing every day." Emma felt encouraged. She realized that challenges could also bring support. Speaking English in public was not easy, but it was a step forward. Every small conversation counted. Every word learned could open a new door. After finishing her tea, Emma left the cafe. She walked slowly back toward the park. She thought about the lesson of the day. Courage is needed to speak, but patience is needed to learn. As the sun began to set, she stopped near the river. The water reflected the golden light. Emma took a deep breath. She looked at the town around her. Everything seemed calm. Everything seemed full of possibilities. She whispered to herself, "Every challenge is an opportunity. Every word is a step forward. I will continue no matter what." Emma continued her journey slowly, carrying her notebook close to her heart. The path of learning was not always easy, but it was beautiful. And she was ready to continue step by step, word by word.